So, yeah, let's get in straight to the match review from yesterday. 3-1 against Brentford at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It was a result and a performance that I think we all just needed as a fan base. It's been a bit toxic over the past week or so with the performance at Coventry. And, the first 4 games of the season, I think the performances have been there, but we just haven't shown that clinical edge to us. And I felt like that was there yesterday, Obviously, we go 1-0 down with 30 seconds in, and you're thinking, oh, God, what is going to happen today? Yeah, you're thinking, oh, my God. Which I did think was poor defending, really poor defending all round, with Pedro Porro leaving so much space for Lewis Potter-Keane on the right back situation, and then Van der Ven just giving Mbeumo just so much space in the box. And look, don't take anything away from the finish, because the finish from Mbeumo was just insane, wasn't it? It was an unreal finish. And we were saying he's got a great record against Tottenham. He's a really good player, and I feel like I'm actually surprised a player like Bryan Mbeumo is not playing for maybe a top half side or a top 6 side even. I think he's got that much quality, and he showed that yesterday. But Ange Postecoglou was speaking in the post-match with Spurs, and he said that's exactly who we want to be. Apparently, he went into the dressing room afterwards and said that's exactly who we want to be to the players. And, like I said, it was just a performance and a result that the whole club just needed, and I felt like it was just a joy to behold and a joy to watch yesterday. Yeah,
it was a really fun afternoon, to be honest. It was actually a really enjoyable game. We were clearly in confident mood starting the game. I know we went 1-0 down early, but we didn't let it affect us. We equalised within 7 minutes or so when obviously Dom Solanke getting his first goal for Spurs, which is a really important milestone for him. Hopefully the first of many as well. And I think the positions he was taking up, you can see where he is in the penalty area. If you look at a lot of the chances we had yesterday and the positions where Solanke's in, he's just going to get so many goals in around that position if we can find him on more than one occasion. And he probably will be disappointed he didn't get more than a goal yesterday because of some of the chances that he did have. But really good for him. And I just think it was good. We finally were getting good reward for our pressing yesterday. We were pressing in really great positions, intercepting Brentford when they were trying to play out the back, just being really smart with our pressing as well. Kind of Maddison on a lot of occasions moving on Brentford players' blind side and kind of nipping the ball in really dangerous areas. And when we were doing that, instead of moves breaking down or us allowing the opposition to get back in position, which maybe in the last few games we've been doing, we were just very clinical in our movements, very direct, knew what we were doing. And I also think we had different avenues of attack. We were very, very creative. We had Decky and Maddison in the centre, being very difficult to deal with for the Brentford defence. We had Brennan and Son looking dangerous on the wide areas, albeit they looked a bit more central in this one, which is quite interesting. And obviously we had Solanke holding the ball up, bringing other players into play, and also picking up really dangerous positions inside the box. So everywhere you looked, it looked like anyone could score. And, we end the game with Maddison a goal and assist, Brennan with a goal, Solanke with a goal, Son with 2 assists as well. So the whole front line were getting in on the act, which is really, really good to see. It's only going to help improve their confidence moving forward. And that's something that's really, I think, beginning of the season held us back and made people question whether this front line is going to be good enough, to take us through the season, or going to be good enough for what we want to be. And obviously, one game doesn't change all the question marks on that. They're going to have to do it consistently. But when they're in the kind of form they were yesterday, it makes us look silly for questioning it, because they looked dynamite yesterday, and they looked really on song. And also they looked like they had a lot of variety in their attack, as opposed to maybe in previous games where we've looked to try to do the same thing every time and not looked to have any variation. But yesterday was a different story, so that was really, really encouraging to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like those tactical tweaks by Ange Postecoglou. It's something that we've been calling for in the week building up to this game. Like, get Sonny on the inside, get him where he's most dangerous. And you saw he was able to get in shooting positions. I thought maybe he was a bit too selfless yesterday in the game. Obviously, he does come up with 2 assists and 7 big chances created, which is unbelievable. But I do feel in some of those big chances that he created, he probably could have had a shot, and he probably would have ended up with a goal on the day. So I did like those tweaks. Destiny Udogie was moved a bit outside, and he was more like an orthodox fullback in this game, Destiny Udogie, and he was charging up the pitch. He was so influential in our attacking play yesterday, Destiny Udogie, pressing high up the front, winning the ball back, providing for us in the attacking creative position. So I really loved the dynamic of our left-hand side yesterday on the pitch. And if we can bring up the phone, I'll just show you exactly what I mean, where you're looking at Sonny. This is the heat map of Sonny, where you see a lot of marks in the central areas of the pitch, and that is the golden moments for Sonny. That is where you want Sonny on the pitch, and this is what we've been saying so much in the build-up to the game. And you're looking at Destiny Udogie, and there you go, all on the outside. So obviously they did chop and change a little bit throughout the game, as you can see by the heat map, but everyone goes, oh, Ange ain't flexible, Ange can't tweak his tactics, it's either his way or the highway. Well, this disproves that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seemed to be, I think the biggest adaptation actually in this game, I don't know if it was by design or just how the game played out, but obviously this season we've been dominating possession with high amounts of possession in games, and a lot of games 65+% possession. Teams have been coming up against us in low blocks, and we've been trying to break them down, and it's always been a kind of attack versus defense. In yesterday's game, it was we had 48% possession throughout the game.
Yeah.
It was only the third time under Ange we've had less possession than the opposition. The only two other times were Chelsea at home last season when we were down to 9 men, so obviously we're going to have less possession, and Man City away last season, who are Man City, so you can't always expect to have more possession than them. So that tells me the fact that we had less possession yesterday, a part of me it feels that must be by design rather than something that must have been something that we thought about before the game, because I think the biggest reason why Son and Johnson looked a lot more effective yesterday than they have in the games this season is because we were a lot more transitional yesterday. I felt like the game plan was definitely more interceptions, allow Brentford to have a bit more of the ball and catch them out with our pressing, rather than dominating the ball ourselves and look to break them down and look to basically pick the lock. We allowed Brentford a bit more possession. We allowed them to have a bit more territory, and with a view of knowing how good our pressing is, and knowing that if we can win the ball in good positions and find Son and Johnson directly into space, they're going to be a lot more of a threat. And you look at Johnson's goal. That came from an interception from, I think it was Maddison, played it into Son quickly, who played it into Johnson very quickly, and he just made use of that space, one touch and bang, shot. The first goal we scored, good interception from Maddison. He takes a shot and Solanke scores. Obviously, the third goal was a breakaway. Again, another transition, a counter-attack. Basuma wins a tackle, quickly plays it to Romero, who quickly finds Son in behind. And we were doing that time and time again. I think it was Solanke found Sonny running in behind, and he went round the keeper and should have done better with that situation. A few situations where Johnson dragged his shots across the face of goal just wide, again for more transitional moments. So I wonder. I'm thinking, was that a deliberate tactic from Ange to allow Brentford to have a bit more territory so we can hit them in transition? And I think if it was a deliberate tactic, it was a smart change, because that's where I think our wide players are more effective in those situations.
Absolutely. I think it was by design. I don't think, with Brentford coming to Spurs, they're not like historically or even this season a team that like to dominate the possession. They like to, work in the transitions as well. And I just felt like if Spurs wanted to completely dominate the possession, you look at all games this season, we've hit 70% possession or 65+% possession. So I think it was clearly by design yesterday.
Yeah, and I think the very fact there was only the third game in his tenure that we haven't dominated possession, and the other two that we haven't were City and Chelsea, where there were probably reasons why we haven't. So even in those games, I don't think it was deliberate. We didn't have possession. It was just, we're playing Man City away and we had 9 men. So in every other game, we have dominated possession. And so clearly that's how we tried to play. So the fact that we're playing at home at Brentford and all of a sudden they've got 52% possession, like that has to be a consequence of some sort of tactical shift from Ange. And I don't know if it's going to be in this specific game or that's something we're going to see more of going forward, or is this something in this game he saw that Brentford, like to play out the back and they like to go man for man, they're marking all these different things, and he thought if we just give them a bit more possession, maybe it will help open them up and we can bait the press a bit. And maybe that's what he was thinking in this game. So I think shows what people were criticising Ancelotti, as you were saying. He seemed to adapt what he was trying to do in this game, and it absolutely paid off because we had less possession. Yeah, we had our highest XG of the season. Not only that, I think we had the second highest in the Premier League touches inside the opposition penalty area. So all the attacking numbers were there. We were still going forward and were still just as offensive. We just did it in a different way, and we decided to attack Brentford in a kind of different way in this game. And it was really exciting to watch. And at some points this season, it's been very frustrating watching low blocks and us having lots of possession. As much as I like us in controlling games and dominating, coming up against a brick wall like we have a lot of times this season has been very frustrating. So maybe this way allowing the opposition just to have a bit more possession so we can catch them in transitions, and I just think it gets the best out of our wide players who appreciate the space a bit more.
If you bring up the match stats, just so you can visualise it, I mean 3.52 XG yesterday, and I remember turning to you, I think at the end of the game or towards the end of the game, I was saying this XG must be absolutely through the roof today, because I think, they mentioned it in the Spurs interview after the game. Relentless was the right word for it, because we just didn't stop throughout the game. Yeah, Brentford, came back into it a little bit in the second half, but it's not like, and Vicario was forced into a couple of really good saves, one particularly from Sade. I mean, that was an unbelievable save. But still, they only had 0.8 XG yesterday. Mm-hmm. And even with giving up a bit of possession, there was no part of the game, maybe in small moments in the second half, but for the most part, you didn't feel like we weren't in control. You felt like we were in total control for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you always felt like we could create chances throughout the game, and we always looked dangerous. And as much as Brentford, they did have chances. I mean, a few of their chances came from our own kind of sloppiness or their good pressing. When Vicario gets caught on the ball, and obviously, and also the header they had was from a bit of sloppy play on the wing as well. So they had some chances, but I do think we, in general, defended very well. And in general, I never really seemed concerned that we were going to concede massively, apart from that little period when they had a bit of domination. But they weren't exactly putting us under loads of pressure. They did find a couple of moments, but I think by and large, we dealt with Brentford very well. And it was interesting, actually. I was after the press conference, after the game, Thomas Frank was talking in his press conference saying, we're coming up against a very good team today, but they had their first choice 11, and we had, a mate we lost Wisser, and we didn't have our first choice attack. And he said it would be very interesting, to see if that was the other way around, how the game would have gone. But I was thinking back to last season, well, that was the case. I think in the front line we had Werner and Richarlison because Son was away, and we didn't have Solanke, obviously. And they had Tony and Mbeumo. And we still won the game 3-2, didn't we? So it's just
to be fair, though, I think he's got a point, because in that game, I did feel like we were a bit fortuitous to get away with that win, because I think that Brentford played a lot better than us in a lot of moments in that game, and we kind of blew them away at the beginning of that second half, but then they came back into it. But the first half, I felt Brentford were the better side, so maybe he does have a case to it. I know we won the game in the end.
We still won.
We still won the game in the end, but I think Brentford put us under a lot more pressure and maybe deserved more than they did in this game.
They deserved more in that game than they did. Maybe. I mean, at the end of the day, if you remember the goals we scored, they were all like really well-created chances, like very good chances that I think with high XGs and stuff like that. So I think Brentford did put us under pressure, but I don't think they created the level of chance on that game that probably deserved the win. And yesterday we did that, and obviously you can see with our XG, which you showed 3.51, that's evidence of the level of chances we're creating, not just the clinical edge of our players. But so yeah, I just thought it was interesting what Thomas Frank was saying after the game, but it was just a joy to behold, seeing us in space, what we were able to do with it, and actually in the final third making good decisions and right decisions. And that shows, once we start doing that, how potent we can be as an attacking force, because it's been questioned this season, hasn't it? about what this front line, how potent they can be. And I think yesterday was evidence that give them a bit of time to click, and maybe we can start seeing them put goals in the back of the net.
Yeah, and look, I think it was due to these small tactical tweaks that Ange did. I really like the dynamic of Brennan Johnson and Sonny coming a bit more inside, and I think they both reap the benefits of it. Particularly Brennan Johnson as well. Like Brennan, I thought particularly in the first half was just relentless up against his left back. Kept running at him, kept running him. Got a brilliant goal as well. That finish smashed into the inside of the netting, didn't it? And it was absolutely clinical. And he was threatening to do that before as well. So Brennan has got to take a lot of credit for the performance yesterday. He's come under a lot of stick, a lot of horrible abuse that he's come under. He's responded to that by scoring the last minute winner off the bench against Coventry to get us into the next round of the Cup, and a top performance against Brentford yesterday. So the fans responded in the right way, you know, singing his name. I don't think I remember Spurs fans singing Brennan Johnson's name like that in the stadium before. So that was a really nice moment. So I think things are going in the right way, and if Ange keeps kind of being able to tweak things in a positive way and not be too stubborn, which he's shown now that he can do that. And to be fair to Ange as well, I thought in the back end of last season, I know results weren't going our way, but he did show an ability to tweak things, and maybe this narrative about him being too stubborn is just a bit overboard.
Yeah, and I do think he's always shown an ability to not necessarily change in a way where I think when people talk about tweaks and changing and having a plan A and B, all this kind of stuff, I think that in their mind it's like he only wants to attack, he only wants to play like go forward and play like possession based and pump and go forward. And sometimes people look at a plan B as, oh, you just lump the ball forward to a big man who looks for flick-ons, or you like a plan B as, oh, you're going to sit back in a low block and counter attack. That's like a different plan. But Ange has definitely been able to change and tweak in different elements, like play different players in different positions, try different things, change how players are playing in certain ways. But that's always with an element, always with a view of trying to attack and trying to go forward and trying to always dominate the game in his certain way. So from that point of view, he doesn't try to change his system, like to play. Apart from maybe yesterday was the first indication of him doing that, but I've always felt like Ange has tried to set up a way to dominate the ball and, you know, do all this kind of stuff. But he sometimes has tweaked it, you know, played to skip at left back, all these different things. He's now moved Decky inside. So he's made some different tweaks with always a view of trying to, you know, dominate possession and being attacking. So I've always felt like he's been willing to change, but always with that view in mind. But yesterday was a bit different in a sense that we did see a bit more possession, and that was like one of the first times we've seen us do that. So maybe there is an indication that he's not married to the idea that we have to dominate possession all the time, and we have to like always be camped out in the opposition half to win games, and that could be a very interesting development going forward. And I also feel like something we spoke about before, that this season, because we've been so dominant in a way, in one way, it's caused another problem in the fact that because we force the team, the opposition, to a low block, it's caused a different problem where the players are trying to find space where there isn't space. So playing a bit more transitional like we did yesterday definitely suits the players that we have currently at our disposal. But I do think in Ange's perfect mind, in his perfect system, he wants us to be dominant like we were in the first 3 games with that kind of possession. But he wants players who are able to cope with that. And I just feel like right now, maybe we don't. And that's why he maybe changed it a bit yesterday.
Yeah, I agree with that. But back on Brennan Johnson, if you bring up his stats yesterday, it just shows you how much of a threat he actually was. 2 shots on target, 2 off target, and 2 shots blocked. So 6 shots in total from Brennan Johnson yesterday, which I talk about, the threat that he was showing before he actually scored.
And what's interesting is, Brennan, for the first 3 games, has been hugged on the touchline and he's been asked, get to the byline, put crosses across the face.
Look how central he's getting in those areas yesterday.
Yeah, and how many crosses did he put in yesterday? Did he say?
Crosses, 1.
1. And he had 6 shots. Whereas, previously he's probably put in, 3 or 4 crosses a game and not had any shots or very few shots. So he was getting to a lot more shooting positions. But that's a consequence of us winning the ball and hitting him directly in a transition. And when we do that, because they had Lewis Potter-Keane, who at left wing back, who's a natural winger, he was very high up the pitch. So what it meant was he could sneak in between the wing back and the centre back and find that kind of space and go for more shooting opportunities rather than just focusing on getting to the byline and putting crosses in. So he found himself a lot more shooting opportunities because of we gave Brentford a bit more possession, I felt, and if we had basically dominated the game and forced Brentford into a low block, and they had Lewis Potter-Keane in a left back position rather than kind of a left wing position, he would have found it a lot more difficult to find those positions.
And that's his bread and butter from when he was at Nottingham Forest, right? Finding those transitional moments and being clinical. That's what he was doing at Nottingham Forest.
And the finish that we saw from him yesterday, it's something that we saw quite a bit from Forest, and it actually is something he's very capable of doing. He's got quite a good strike across the face to goal in that position. Obviously, he nearly scored a couple of times yesterday with it, and it's something that since he's come to Tottenham, he hasn't been able to show that finishing ability because of the role we ask him to play. The only goals he seems to score were back post finishes. I can't remember too many other goals he's scored.
He hasn't scored too many.
To be honest,
it was nice to see a different goal from him yesterday.
Yeah, it was nice to see something. But we know he has that in him, and he can be quite clinical in those situations. So I think the goal should be to try and get him in those situations more. And it's always, I think, but to do that, it's going to mean playing a bit more transitional rather than dominating. So it's going to be interesting to see how Ange finds a balance there, because he builds his team around trying to dominate possession. So is this something we are going to see going forward, or was it something? So. Is this something just more specific to yesterday's game?
I think it's something we're going to see going forward, in my opinion. And you're looking at, the criticism that we've given Brennan Johnson on this channel so far this season. I think the criticism has been rightly so. He hasn't been good enough before this season. Obviously, we talk about the commentary game, we talk about the game yesterday where he puts in good performances, or he gets goals, particularly in the commentary game. But yesterday he put in a good performance. But you've got to say how it is. He performed very well yesterday. And I hate all this narrative being like, you've given him criticism, so you're part of the problem about the abuse and stuff. And I mean, there's two different things here. There's criticism, which you got to call it how it is, and then there's the abuse. And no player, no matter who you are, should be coming under abuse like Brennan Johnson did yesterday. Even if you're the worst player in the team by some way, nobody should be abusing any sort of player. I think that's just completely uncalled for. The team have rallied behind him, the fans have rallied behind him, and we're reaping the benefits now because he's just put in the best performance of the season. So you got to give credit where it's due, and Brennan Johnson definitely deserves that. Another player who I think definitely deserves big high praise yesterday was James Maddison. James Maddison was absolutely everywhere yesterday. He was coming deep, he was working in the tight spaces. How many times did you see him get the ball with 2-3 men around him, and he was just able to wriggle out of those situations and create loads of space and beat that kind of press that Brentford were trying to put us under. Got his goal, which was thoroughly deserved right at the end with a lovely dink over the keeper. And what I really loved about that goal, Bissouma, on that yellow card, that sliding challenge that he puts in, Romero fighting to get that ball, playing a lovely ball to Sonny, and then Sonny being selfless as he was all game yesterday, finding James Maddison in behind, and Maddison with a perfect dink over the keeper. I thought that was a lovely goal, straight out of the top drawer. And Maddison, I was watching Ali Gold's video before, and he says he thinks it's Maddison's best game in a Spurs shirt yesterday, and I have to agree with that.
I thought he was absolutely phenomenal. Like throughout the whole game, like every single facet of his game was top notch. Whether it be his pressing off the ball, if you look at his numbers, 14 out of 23 duels won, which is for a player like of
you bring up his numbers,
of his
while you're
capability,
talking.
Like of a player of what he is, his profile is an astounding kind of astounding numbers. I think it was 3 tackles on the day as well. But when you look at on the ball, I mean, it was absolutely incredible. First of all, 3 key passes showed how creative he was on the ball, being able to create chances. I think I think he had 2 shots on the day as well. Was it 2 shots?
He had
2 shots on target.
2 shots on target and 1 shot blocked as well.
Which shows that he was a goal threat. But I think the
shot on target came from the first goal, didn't it?
The first goal. But I think where he really earned his money, the 7 out of 11 completed dribbles.
Most in the Premier League this season.
Exactly, and that just shows how vital he was, because Brentford's plan yesterday, if you look at their tactical set, was to go for like a man-for-man marking, and which means every player had to compete in their one-on-one duel. And what that meant was, and Maddison explained it really well yesterday, is that to overcome that, you need to win your one-on-one duels. And if you can get just one player to get past their marker, bam, it opens up the whole pitch. Because it's a man-for-man marking system, everyone has a man. So if you get past your man, you're going to either be in a load of space, or a player's going to be drawn to you, and that leaves space for the player he's been marking. So Maddison, literally about 7 times, according to her stats, was able to wriggle past his marker, and that basically caused so many opportunities. Not even going into the opportunities he got from his interceptions and his duels won in the opposition half, which led to countless opportunities being created. So amazing work from James Maddison. He was a touch of class yesterday. Everything he did seemed to turn to gold. Like a lot of our good work basically came through James Maddison yesterday. I thought he was literally unstoppable. They couldn't get near him. They couldn't live with him. And I think he was a massive part of why we won the game yesterday. If it wasn't for him, I think actually the chances we created were going to be far fewer, to be honest. So I think he was my man of the match. He was astounding.
I think he was everyone's man of the match.
He was just amazing. He was just incredible. So massive credit for James Maddison. He just seemed so up for it, and he just seemed to find a new level yesterday.
Yeah, like we said, best performance in the Spurs shirt yesterday, and that is trumping the first 10 games of last season where he was absolutely unplayable at times as well.
And what a goal!
We did mention his goal, but
I mean, you mentioned. I'm saying when I was going through his performance, like I was mentioning all the chances he created, but like, incredible chip over the keeper, just dinked under the bar. Beautiful.
He was worried. He was worried it was going to hit the bar.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, to be honest, because it did for one moment. It looked like it might, but it was a beautiful dink, and really good composure on his left foot as well. And he was just brilliant. He was just brilliant. He was involved in so much good work we did yesterday.
He was involved. Was he involved in all? He was involved in the first goal.
Yeah, he was involved in all three. He won the ball back and won the ball in the centre to give to Son for the second, and scored the third. So brilliant. All
action display. And you know what stat really impresses me about James Maddison yesterday? He won 14 ground duels out of 23 attempted yesterday. Mm-hmm. That just shows how dominant and how tenacious he was. And I feel like that part of his game just goes a bit unnoticed when you talk about Maddison. Obviously, he hasn't been on the best form, for quite some time. I actually think he has started the season well from a personal performance kind of thing, and he actually alluded to that in his post-match interview after the game. But that performance is back to his very, very best, and we need to keep him at that level, because when he's playing like that, he just adds something that no other player in our squad can add.
Mm-hmm. And he can be that X factor. He's a special player when he's in this kind of form. And the problem that we've had is keeping him fit and keeping him consistent, all these different things. And the way he ended last season was really disappointing. And he himself acknowledged that he didn't end the season very well. But if we can just keep him in this form for as long as possible, we're going to reap the benefits, because he's a very, very special player. And Brentford just literally could not live with him yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Sonny as well. Like, the link up between Maddison and Sonny was brilliant yesterday. Like I mentioned before, 7 key passes from Sonny in the game yesterday. There were a couple of those where he could have just probably had a shift and shot and shoot the ball, and probably would have ended up on the score sheet. And I felt it was a bit strange from Sonny yesterday, where like sometimes he does have that kind of ruthless edge to him where, he just picks up the ball and he's like, that's it, I'm scoring now. But he just kept passing it. He was like a chief creator yesterday, wasn't he? 2 assists, 7 key passes on the day.
And I think it worked, to be honest, because as much like the only time I think he'll be really disappointed he didn't get a shot off was probably the one where he went through one-on-one with the keeper and then rounded the keeper and just couldn't quite find the angle for the shot, which was really disappointing. I think all the other times he was probably right to pass.
Wasn't there one where he played it to, was it Brennan Johnson?
Yeah, I thought that was the right decision.
I thought he could have had a shot there.
If you watch it back, there's 2 players who get back in position and get in front of him, and I think the best decision there was to lay it off for Brennan, who had a free shot. And I think actually, if you watch it back, it was the correct decision. I think he was being selfless, but you could argue maybe he could add a shot in a few other positions, but I thought he actually worked really well for us, Son, doing that. And obviously he got his 2 assists with 1 direct ball straight into Brennan and a very good counter-attack into Madders, a nutmeg through ball into Madders to get the 3rd goal. And I just thought he was doing a job for the team yesterday, and
a captain's performance.
And to be fair to him, look, we've said previously, when you finish games and Son has only had no shots or one shot, that's a problem. But he only had one shot yesterday and it wasn't a problem. And if we can keep up this level of creativity, then maybe he can show he's got more string to his bow. I still think he's always been a creative player, but I always thought obviously his goal scoring is his biggest asset. But yesterday, his creativity was really on display.
Well, you say always, he's always been a creative player because he's in the second most assists in Premier League history for Tottenham Hotspur. I think only 3 or 4 behind Darren Anderton. He's gone above Christian Eriksen. Like, how mad is that? He's gone above Christian Eriksen, who was getting 15 assists at some point per season. So I think that's unbelievable from Sonny, and he's got so much to his game. He just really does. And I still think even now, with what he's shown over the past, ever since joining Tottenham, he's still such an underrated player and people don't value him as highly as they should. And I hate this whole narrative where people go, oh, Sonny's too old, Sonny's finished, Sonny's this, Sonny's that. He always responds to the critics and always proves people wrong. So this narrative about Sonny being finished is absolutely crazy, in my opinion. And he showed that again yesterday. Even if it wasn't his complete most strongest display, it was still a top display for him. Captain's performance, laying on chance after chance yesterday. And even if he wasn't having consistent shots on goal yesterday, he was still getting in those positions where he's the most dangerous. So it just gives the opposition something else to think about, where when he's tugged out to the touchline, he's not, he doesn't give that much to the opponents to think about. All he can do is cross it in from there. At least when he's in that moment and when he's on the left-hand side of the edge of the area, he can either shoot, he can pass it inside, he can go out, he can go in any direction he wants.
But again, similar to Brendan, I think he really benefited from the change in our approach because, again, Son, I think as well, he's very good in the transitions. He's much better in the transitions. And I think yesterday he showed that because every time we won the ball back and went direct, he was alive and he had the space to pick out, as you say, he had options rather than how he's played in the first 3 games, which is we've been playing against low blocks and we're getting out wide to him and he's been asked to beat players and break down teams from a low block. In this scenario, he's asked to run into space, which is what Son loves to do. How many times do we see him even running central into space, running in behind, which we just haven't been able to see from him in the first 3 games. And I don't think it's because he upped his game. I think it's more the change in how we approach the game got the best out of him, and hopefully that's a credit to Ange, in my opinion. Yeah,
and I just love the dynamic between him and Udogie on that left-hand side as well. I think you saw yesterday Udogie getting back to close to full fitness yesterday. He lasted
90 minutes.
Yeah, he played 90 minutes, and you didn't really see his performance level drop at all throughout that 90 minutes. You look at that first half. How many times we were on that side? Were we on that side? I can't remember. Too many drinks yesterday in the H Club.
In the first half, we were on that side.
We were on that side, exactly. And how many times did we see him just go down that side? And he was such a creative outlet. And not only that, but his pressing was on point all game yesterday. So I think you're really starting to see Udogie getting back to his old self now.
Definitely. And I think, playing him 45 minutes in midweek really helped to get that match fitness up. And Ange was saying, he hasn't been completely 100% match fit this season. But I think you're starting to really see Udogie start to hit the levels that we saw at the beginning of last season at the moment. And 90 minutes, I thought he was completely dominant on that side as well. I thought so strong defensively. I thought he put in a phenomenal display. He's one of our better players as well. So well played Udogie, and really excited to see these kind of performances moving forward for him. Because when he's in that mood, and because he's so strong, when he's in full flight, he's one of these players that you just can't bully off the ball. You can't stop him. Or if he wants to get past you, like if you're in a 50-50 duel with him, like there's only one winner because he's so strong. And when he's in the form he is yesterday, he's imperious.
Well, there was a couple of times when he was on the ball charging up the pitch, like a Brentford player came to engage him. He just quickly shifts round him, and it's like you just can't get him. You just can't get him.
Too strong. Guess we're still about Vicario.
I was just about to say the good, the bad, and the ugly from Vicario yesterday. I mean,
you know what reminded me of yesterday?
Gomez.
Such a Aurelio Gomez performance.
Oh man,
proper Gomez vibe.
Look, I think there were some really top saves in there. We'll talk about the good first, because that save from Sade. kind of like clawed it out of the net, didn't he? I thought it was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
And he'd saved one just before from Mbeumo as well when they were on the counter and he was through one-on-one. Well, not quite one-on-one because I think Van de Ven was there, but, you know, a position where Mbeumo can be clinical, and he had to make a good save there as well.
So he did. He was there for the team. He stepped up in important moments because...
Sorry, go on.
Because if Sade scores that, it goes to 2-2, and you know the game could creep away from us.
And also, actually, I have to give him credit because I thought from set pieces, apart from what we'll talk about, which I believe did come from a set piece, I think, but
he caught a lot.
He did catch all. He was coming for things a lot more. He looked a lot more confident. So I got to give him a bit of credit because I actually thought his coming for set pieces was pretty good, apart from that one moment. And maybe again more. This is a team, yesterday, Brentford, who are one of the best from set piece in the league. Always very creative with their setups and stuff, and always look to put the opposition under pressure. And I thought we dealt with it quite well yesterday.
And it's not just that, but actually, you know, he gets a lot of flack and a lot of stick for playing out the back. But I felt there were a number of times yesterday where he was playing out the back and he was able to dink it over to a Pedro Porro, dink it over to a Rodrigo Bentancur, and dink it over to a few other players where, you know, just completely beat Brentford's press in a second. So he gets a lot of stick for playing out the back, but I think there were a lot of moments yesterday where he did really well in that aspect.
I think in terms of playing out the back, in terms of how I see Vicario, I think he's good playing out the back. I think he's better than your average keeper playing out the back, but he's not on the level of the top keepers in the league when it comes to that standard. So if you're judging him, if we're judging him amongst the best keepers, I don't think he's on that level. But I do think if you're judging him against the average keeper, he's probably a bit above average playing out the back. And I think, you know, yesterday, I know he had that hairy moment where he probably could have cost us, but he was actually quite good with the ball at his feet. And as you say, those little dinks, I think the stats are 6 out of 8 long balls completed from him. So pretty good passing, I would say.
How long is a long ball to make it a pass to a long ball?
30 yards, maybe.
30 yards.
I think so.
So obviously there were two very scary moments from Vicario. One was more just complete what the hell are you doing? The other one was a very scary moment, obviously, where he's got the ball, 2 Brentford players are bearing down on him and he's trying to like dribble past them. I don't know what he's doing. Just get it away at that point.
I watching it back, he gets put under pressure, to be fair. Van de Ven passes him, and with the fact that there are 2 Brentford players there, but he has a chance to just get rid on his left foot. And I think I tell you why. I think it's because he's analysing who he should pass to, because obviously under Ange, you know, he's told to play out the back when you can, try and find an option, and he's trying to see who he can pass to. And actually, he realises too late that he doesn't have a passing option. I think Bentancur's trying to come short, but he can't really make that pass because it's too risky. But he dawdles way too long on the ball. I don't think he's trying to dribble past anyone. I think he's just looking for an option. He realises too late that there actually isn't an option, and he probably should have belted it as soon as he got the ball. And at that point, the 2 Brentford players have got way too close to him. They nicked the ball off him. And look, to be credit to him though, as much as he put himself, he put the team in trouble. He did make the save to make sure they didn't cost us. So, you know, hopefully he'll learn from that situation. He should be more aware, I think, as before he receives the ball, that there aren't really any options, and he should have booted it as soon as he noticed that these 2 Brentford players are coming close to him. But I think that's something he'll learn from going forward, and hopefully that's something they'll try and, you know, work on the training ground, because that could have cost us. But he made the save, so credit to him.
Yeah, it was like he made a double save at that point, didn't he? Wasn't it? Didn't he save it twice? Because he got the first initial shot, and then I think there was another one in there. I might be wrong, but obviously what everyone's going to be talking about is a handball just outside the box. I mean, what the hell is he doing? First of all, why is he charging out crazy like that? I don't think he needed to at that moment in time. And second of all, I felt like he touches it outside the box, and then he goes for it again a second later and touches it. Yeah, I think he actually touched it out of the box twice yesterday. He handled
it twice outside the box, because he handled it once, and then he noticed it's still going to move to Damsgaard. He just did a little tap there. I don't know whether he just got his bearings wrong. He didn't know he was outside the box, but I think he did. He was completely unnecessary for him to. I think he misjudged the flight of the ball. I think he thinks that it was coming a lot closer inside the box than it was. I think he realises once he went to catch the ball that actually if he catches it and once he lands he's going to be outside, so then he drops it. And then he realizes it's going to fall to Damsgaard, so he quickly hits it away. I don't know.
So
how...
if he realizes, so you're saying if he realizes it that he's going to drop it, and if he's going to carry on holding it, he's going to be outside the area. Then why does he tap it twice after that? Because he knows he's outside the area. Surely.
At that point, he realized he was going to go to Damsgaard. I think he must have realized at that point he was outside the box, and I reckon he realized he was going to land to Damsgaard, so he just taps it away from him, probably just either looking to sneakily get away with it, or which in the age of cameras and VAR is. I mean, he did get away with it. But
so you're saying it's intentional?
I think it was intentional.
So if it's intentional, is that not a red card then?
Intentional handball, I think intentional handball to deny a obvious goal scoring opportunity is a red card. I think
the Spurs had enough men back.
If you had intentional handball is a yellow card, I think. I don't think it's a straight red. Intentional handball that denies a goal scoring opportunity.
It's a red card.
That's a red card.
So yeah, it wasn't a goal scoring opportunity because Spurs had many players back.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. So I think if a referee gives him a red card, I don't think like VAR overturns or anything. I think he's lucky in a way that, some referees could deem that if it lands to Damsgaard and there's an open goal there, and he has a shot, maybe that could be a goal scoring opportunity. So I think he's lucky that the referee, or the VAR, I should say, deemed it a non-obvious goal scoring opportunity. But he's extremely lucky. The referee just seemed to miss it completely. I don't know how. Everyone in the ground could see that he had handled that. Somehow the referee didn't notice it. And I understand that the Brentford players were going to go mental, so completely got away with that one. It was one of those really odd moments that you very rarely see in a football game.
Thomas Frank and the Brentford player both got booked for complaining to the ref. It was mad.
He really, really got away with that. But I don't think it's one of those moments that, yes, they got robbed of a free kick, but I wouldn't say that changed the game or anything.
No. And I think Thomas Frank actually admitted that after the game. He said it was a crazy decision from the ref, but that's not where the game was won or lost.
It's not like a penalty or anything.
Yeah, exactly. And he was talking, actually in his post-match press conference, he was talking about how low a percentage is from a free kick from that area anyway. So it's not like a game-defining moment. It's not at all.
Yeah.
Dom Solanke, I thought, obviously he gets his first goal for the club, which I was desperate for him to get coming into this game. Lovely poacher's effort from great work from James Maddison. And it wasn't just that. I think he probably could have finished on more goals than he did on the day. There was a couple of chances where he probably should have scored from. But it's just a common theme now from the 3 games that we've seen him play, just tireless running, tireless work. You saw he was absolutely knackered when he got taken off with 15 minutes to go. He probably could have been taken off a bit earlier than that, to be fair. But he just does such great work for the team, Dom Solanke, doesn't he? In his hold-up play, his pressing, his ability just to tirelessly run for the whole time he's on the pitch. I feel like he is a real big asset for us.
Which is why they were calling him the best pressing forward in the league last season. And that's exactly why Ange wanted him, because of those traits. And that's really going to be beneficial to us. And what's great is having someone like, when he presses, because he's such a physical presence, as soon as he gets near you and he gets a whiff of it, it's very hard to get away from him, because he's actually a lot faster than people give him credit for, and he's such a big physical specimen with his upper body strength. So as soon as he gets close to you and he's like looking to shove you off the ball, he's difficult to stop in those situations. He's a brilliant presser. I think he's got brilliant hold-up play. He earns free kicks in good situations. We play it when we play the ball directly into him, like say on the halfway line and stuff like that. He's able to hold the ball up, win free kicks, get us up the pitch. Or if he doesn't win a free kick, he usually turns his man and gets us going back the other way. And he's obviously, those are the kind of goals he was getting for Bournemouth last season. Those little tap-ins, and that's exactly the positions we're going to need to get him in for Tottenham. And he was taking up those positions time and time again. He'll be really disappointed that he didn't get on the score sheet more than once, because he had that moment where Son put it across. Maddison put it across the face of goal. He actually got there first. I think a defender blocked it on the line, and they just got it away. And then there was a moment in the second half where Decky. He goes into a dribble in the box. It kind of just falls its way into Solanke, and he has just outside the 6-yard box has a really good opportunity, and he fires it straight at Flecken. He'll be disappointed that he didn't bury that chance as well. So he had some really good opportunities. And if you I mentioned it at the beginning of the stream, but if you pause when all the opportunities we had yesterday, and when Brendan's firing it across the face of goal and things like that, and Maddison's getting in the box, just watch where Solanke is, and he's always in and around sniffing opportunities, looking for tap-ins, looking for poachers' efforts, or looking for the cutbacks for his teammates. And I just feel like once we really get into a rhythm with him, where we're finding him consistently, it's going to be goals galore. I really feel that, and I just feel like he's added so much to our team already, and we just haven't seen it yet, just because we haven't seen him score goals yet, and we haven't made the most out of the situations where he's holding up the ball and bringing other players into play. But once we start doing it, it's going to make such a difference to our attack. I really believe that.
The reality is, we're sitting here, 3 games in? He's played 3 games in the Premier League now.
And he was out for he was injured. And he got injured as well.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is 3 games into his Premier League campaign with Tottenham, in a complete new team, new system, new everything, he should be sitting here on a lot more goals already than he's already got. He probably should have got at least a goal at Leicester. Arsenal, he probably should have got a goal as well. If he shifts and shoot, you never know, it could be going in. And he probably should have got more than 1 goal yesterday. So you're looking at it, and his finishing is probably what he's shown so far in his Spurs shirt to be his worst asset.
And he played that through ball to Son as well, which when he rounded the keeper, and that was Solanke playing that through ball. So showed his all-round game there as well. And I agree, his finishing's just been a bit off it. But you've seen, I don't know, I don't know what it is. We saw, like, for example, Ollie Watkins at the beginning of the season, he went away. I know Solanke wasn't away at the Euros, but for one reason or another, he just wasn't fully fit, and you saw he was getting chances and fluffing them, and now all of a sudden he had that break from the international break, and he's firing again, getting goals. And we've seen Solanke's been injured, and he's had some problems. Apparently, it was at the beginning of that Leicester game, he got injured, and then he played on with it, and obviously it led to him being out for a few weeks.
I think he actually missed quite a bit of pre-season with Bournemouth through an injury.
Yeah, that was right. I mean, everyone thought it wasn't a real injury because he was getting a move to Tottenham, and it might have been, but they said he was injured, so maybe he did have an actual injury at the time. So sometimes you just need to get that bit of a break, and once you get back to full fitness and match fitness, bam, you're going to be firing again. And obviously he got his first goal, and I think I really believe he's going to be a major difference for us, and I think he's already proving to be a major asset.
Obviously, it was great to get back to winning ways, top performance, and I don't think, obviously with a few tweaks, but I don't think it was too dissimilar to what we've seen against Leicester, against Everton, and against Newcastle, and even to a certain extent against Arsenal. I think the key thing here, the pressing has always been there in all these games. We've won it consistently high up the pitch, but the difference was we showed that clinical edge yesterday, and we got those goals. And to be honest, we weren't even as clinical as maybe we should have been yesterday, because we could have scored maybe 4. Because if we score 5 goals yesterday, everyone's saying it's well deserved, and I felt like we could have scored that amount of goals yesterday. So I still think we need to be a bit more ruthless in the final third, but it was definitely great to get back to winning ways. But however, it's still a similar thing where we're beating the bottom 10 teams, and now in the next 2 games in the Premier League, we've got Man United and Brighton, both away from home. Does that performance yesterday give you confidence that we can go and do a job in those games, or because there's still question marks for me about us coming up against these top 10 teams? Yeah, and
we'll have to wait and see. I think we can definitely be in it. Even without the performance yesterday, we can definitely give them a game. We could definitely beat them. We're capable of beating anyone. I really believe that. I think we've got a very good team. I think the way we play gives us a chance against any team. I strongly believe that, and I do think we've got a chance to win these games. But it's whether we make the most out of the pressing situations, it's whether we're clinical in front of goal, it's whether how much we can restrict the opposition to the chances they create. We'll have to wait and see once we play, to these top half teams, if we're up to the task of really dominating and winning these games as well, not just the teams in the bottom half. So obviously we've still got more to prove, but at least we answered a few questions yesterday. But we haven't finished the test, should we say?
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully this will, give us that confidence to really kickstart the season. Obviously, you see Brennan Johnson, who would have massively got a big confidence boost after the last week, after what he's been through in the previous weeks. So hopefully good things to come. Big games ahead. Europa League as well, starting next week with Karabag on Thursday night.
Very interesting to see what kind of lineup he
plays. Do you think he does go a similar lineup to what he did against Coventry?
I don't think it's as. I still think he'll make changes, but I don't think he'll make 8.
I think Bergvall has to come in. I think Bergvall showed really good performances against Coventry, and it'll be unlucky for him if he doesn't start. I mean, I really don't want to see Timo start. Again, I stand by what I said before the Coventry game. I said I want to see Mikey Moore start that game. I want to see Mikey Moore start this game.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be nice. Obviously, he came on. We didn't mention that, actually, the 3 youngsters coming on at the end, which was really nice to see. And obviously, Mikey Moore getting 5 minutes. Unfortunately, the game was done by then, and we actually were looking to play into the corner more than going for another goal. So didn't get to see Mikey Moore do anything. But
I don't think he had a touch, did he?
Not that I can remember, to be honest. So. But it was still nice to see him get some minutes in the Premier League, which is with a view of getting them more involved this season. So looking forward to see what kind of lineup he plays on Thursday. I guess we'll see, who's fit and who's all that kind of stuff. And obviously, still haven't heard about Bentancur, which we didn't mention as well. Yeah, I thought I had a pretty good game, actually.
Yeah, it was fairly good. I think he was. I think he was helping us. Just suffocate Brentford at times in their half, and maybe not suffocate them, but keep. Recycling that possession and getting us high up the pitch. So, yeah, Bentancur put in a good performance, and I thought Basuma as well, when he came on, looked really good.
So we have to see when it comes to Bentancur. We don't know yet if he's going to be what the ban is or anything like that. So, if he is going to get banned, I'm assuming he's going to play every Europa League game, so he'll be in the team probably. So we have to wait and
isn't it a given that he's banned? It's just about how long for.
We don't know.
Because he's been charged by the FA, hasn't he?
He's been charged. I don't know. I mean, we haven't had it confirmed that he accepted the charge. I mean, I assume he will. I don't know. There's nothing been confirmed yet, so I have to wait and see what the latest is.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was our match review. Definitely a top performance at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium yesterday. Great to get back to winning ways.